accelerate the allocation and ensure market supply. Today, we will focus on the insurance of supply of vegetables. We have Mr. Pan Wenbo, DG of the Plantation Department, Mr. Yang Zhenghai, DG of Livestock Husbandry Veterinary Department, Song Danyang, DDG of Market Department, and Mr. Jiang Kaiyong of the Fishery Administration Department of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs to take questions. We also have Senior Consultant Researcher Mr. Zhang Liubo from CDC to give us some scientific knowledge. Some words on the updates of the epidemic. For yesterday, across different provinces and the Xinjiang Production Corp, new confirmed cases 1,886, severe cases 1,097, new deaths 98, among which 93 from Hubei, 3 from Henan, 1 from Hebei, and 1 from Henan. New suspected cases 1,432, new cured and discharged cases 1,701. Those of medical observation 27,908. By 24 o'clock, 17th of February, data from provinces and the Xinjiang Production Corp, remaining confirmed cases 58,016, severe cases 11,741, remaining those discharged from the hospitals 12,552, in cumulative terms, deaths 1,868, confirmed cases in cumulative term 72,436, those remaining and medical observation 141,552. In Hubei province, new confirmed cases 1,807, including 1,600 from Wuhan. New discharged cases 1,223, including 72 in Wuhan. Remaining new deaths 1,789, including 1,381 from Wuhan. Remaining severe cases 10,970, including 9,222 from Wuhan. In cumulative terms, discharged 7,862, including 4,219 from Wuhan. New deaths in Hubei province. In cumulative terms, deaths in Hubei province 1,789, including 1,381 from Wuhan. New suspected cases 788, including 340 from Wuhan. Remaining suspected cases 4,194, including 1,799 from Wuhan. From Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, reported confirmed cases 92, including 60 from Hong Kong, 10 from Macau, 22 from the Taiwan region. Apart from Hubei province, new confirmed cases 72, new suspected cases 600 plus, new deaths 5. Severe cases have decreased by 72. New confirmed cases in other provinces have seen a decline on 14 days running compared with the peak previously for 17th of February for the first time. Apart from Hubei province, we have seen the new confirmed cases of below 100 cases. So we have 3 first decline, and we see the positive trend. Definitely, for the next steps, we need to consolidate the existing achievements, focus on the treatment of severe cases, optimize treatment protocols, emphasize the combination of TCM and Western medicine, prevent the shift from mild to severe cases, and improve cure rate. Now we'd like to take questions from the floor. Please identify yourself. Journalist on the first row, please. Thank you. I'm from Xinhua News Agency. Soon we will be entering into spring if we look at the lunar calendar. It is the season for spring plowing. The Standing Committee meeting of the State Council has put forward requirement for preparation of the spring plowing. So how does MOARA strike a balance between prevention control and the spring plowing? I'd like to ask Director General Pan Wenbo to take the question. Indeed, this is a very professional question. Tomorrow, in lunar calendar, it will be the rainfall, spring rainfall. Yes, we are faced with new problems. According to available data, there are 3 major problems. Some agricultural businesses haven't resumed their business yet. In many localities, the restart of business need to get approval from the local prevention and control steering committee. So there is a low rate of normal recovery and resumption of business. Second, the raw materials find it difficult to reach the businesses, including seeds, fertilizers. The overall amount are sufficient. However, the last mile was kept up by the roadblocks, and they cannot enter into the villages where the business are running. Third, the agricultural businesses have been impacted. In some places, because of the prevention and control efforts, one-size-fits-all approach was adopted. Roadblocks are everywhere, and the tractors are even forbidden to go to the fields. It is the time for the spring picking of tea leaves. And in southern China, it is already the time to pick the fresh leaves. The labor is expensive, and labor is in shortage. And these have impacted the normal operation of large-scale agricultural businesses. And the deployment of the State Council, Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs try to strike a balance between prevention, control of the epidemic, and spring plowing. On the 5th of February, we convened a video conference on the preparation for spring plowing. We've issued notice by putting forward 8 responses. We've published a letter to farmers and mobilized farmers to be prepared for both prevention control and the spring plowing. Most places are still in the preparation stage, but in Guangdong, Guangxi, in the later half of February, the rice seedling will be planted, and in Hubei, Hunan provinces along the Yangtze River, the seeds plantation will start only in later part of March, and it will be even late for the northern China. Agriculture is very different from industry. Some say that we need both timing, good weather, good climate, good soil for the good harvest. And also in agriculture, it is pretty true that time waits for no one. So we have put forward a schedule for the spring plowing from the northern China to southern China, differentiated plantation, differentiated prevention and control measures. In areas where the epidemic is not severe, they must seize the opportunity and do not miss the valuable spring plowing time. And such schedules are very much refined because these schedules are also on individual items of vegetables. The supply of agricultural raw materials and feeds, the restart of agricultural businesses have been included into the overall prevention control deployment. We must ensure the precise restart and resumption of agricultural business, ensure the raw material supply, including feeds and fertilizers. prevention against the epidemic and the good flooring must be ensured in parallel.
Thank you. Next question. On the left, on the second row, the journalist in white. Thank you, Mr. Mi. From CNR, my question is about vegetable supply. According to our interviews and surveys, we found that there's imbalances concerning the supply and the demand for vegetables. Now we have the Mayor Veg Basket project. So what are the specific measures? Mr. Su. Thank you for your question. In some production sites, there are such problems of inadequate access to the market. And there are some imbalances, as you have rightly pointed out. So in the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, we had the Mayor's Veg Basket project. For this project, it has been identified as a key project, and the result will be evaluated as the performance evaluation of the local managers or administrators or officials. Second, we have tried to overcome such imbalances and match the supply with demand. Yesterday, the ministry conducted a teleconferencing, and this teleconference is conducted to ensure the accurate and adequate match between the supply and demand. Also, we have taken active approaches to have sound procurement. Up to now, we have procured 18,000 tons from Hainan and more than 20,000 tons from Guangxi Autonomous Region. Also, there have been public welfare alliance for vegetable supply. For the next step, the wholesale markets will be encouraged to sell the eggs which they have already procured. Also, we encourage the online marketing of the agricultural produces. We are building very actively the online e-shopping platforms. For example, we've already had 3 such initiatives. In Beijing, there's also an information platform for agricultural products. And in Guangdong, there's also a platform like this. On the other hand, the e-commerce is broadly encouraged. Now we have Ali and Pinduoduo and the groups like that who have already launched e-shopping initiatives. There are other details which can be supplemented by DG Pan. Let me also contribute some points to this answer. In the joint prevention and control mechanism, there are a few government agencies engaged to ensure the supply and delivery of the agricultural products, such as my ministry and the Ministry of Commerce. We will make every effort to ensure the smooth and adequate supply of the vegetable. There are quite a few initiatives in this regard. The first is to procure the vegetables. At the moment, for vegetable producers, they may have some difficult access to the workers and also to the market. So we have adopted measures like the peak shifting approaches to ensure the supply of vegetables and also to increase the farmers' income. Also, for the major producers of vegetable, we can offer some appropriate subsidies and optimize the process for the migrant workers or for the farmers or farm workers to get back to work. Furthermore, we are implementing the specific plans and make the detailed arrangements. We have constant telecommunication to get feedback from the stakeholders, in particular the farmers. Once we identify any problem, we will forward the problem to the local competent authorities. By doing so, we wish to implement the relevant policies soundly. Okay, let's continue. On the right, on the third row, the second journalist. Thank you. From from ntv.com. Previously, there's some media coverage about the shortage of the supply shortage of poultry. So how to ensure the poultry production? Mr. Yang, to answer your question. Thank you very much for your concern with the poultry and egg production. As you know, that for poultry sector, it has a very long supply chain, and one weak link in this chain will lead to severe consequences. So for this epidemic outbreak, we do find a lot of challenges caused by this epidemic. For example, the poultry producers find very difficult access to the market, and the farmers are suffering a lot economically. I received a phone call from a poultry producer telling me that he has already suffered a lot. So there is some negative impact on the supply of poultry and egg products in the coming quarters. So just now we have speakers mentioned the relevant policies worked out by the state joint mechanism, the State Council's joint mechanism, and for my ministry, we are making every effort to help reduce the negative impact and improve the income for the farmers. We are working on 3 initiatives. The first is the support to the household-based farm producers. We are providing more information to help them get access to the relevant agricultural means of production and the market. And also, they will be subsidized by the government. Second, to ensure the smooth delivery of the agricultural products, including the poultry and egg products. So yesterday, we got the conclusion that the epidemic was not caused by the poultry.
In the principle of law-based and scientific management, we will have categorized management over the poultry farms and hatcheries. We will have a mass culling of the poultry so that the live poultry products can be culled and delivered in a timely fashion. Third, the industry association's role must be brought into full play, and also the industry advantages must be brought out. we should give instruction to the poultry farms to enhance the biosafety, coordinate efforts to deal with feed shortage and the delivery difficulties of the grown chickens, so as to promote the accelerated recovery of the chicken and poultry industry. Next question, please. Thank you. I'm from CNR with CCTV Group. As people are returning to their workplaces, in cities there is growing need for aquaculture products. Does the epidemic exert the major impact on aquaculture produce? I'd like to ask Mr. Jian Kai-yong to take the question. Aquaculture products, in particular fish and shrimps, are major components of the Veggie Basket campaign. After the outbreak of the epidemic, we've stepped up efforts to monitor the fishery and aquaculture products production. Reserve is sufficient. Supply can be guaranteed. Our analysis in 50 designated aquaculture markets have shown that in the first half of February, the trading volume was only 10% of the yearly average. Starting from yesterday, there was some rebounding to 25%. The price is 50 to 60 per half a kilometer, and the Chinese carp is averaged priced at 20 to 25 yuan. So there was not major fluctuation in prices. Hubei province has been collaborating with the outskirts producers. Supply is guaranteed. Prices did not surge. The current reserve can meet consumption needs. According to our survey in Shandong, Fujian, Hubei, Guangdong, and 12 major producing provinces, the reserve is approximately 5 million tons. As transportation and sales get smoother, more aquaculture produce will enter into the market to meet the general public's needs. Thank you. Next question, please. On the left side, journalist from the first row, please. Thank you. I'm from the Agriculture Daily. The general public fretted over the epidemic and they tend to stockpile rice, edible oil, and flour. What is the overall situation in the agricultural produce market? Is there prediction for the upsurge in price? I'd like to ask Mr. Song Dan-yang from the Marketing Informationization Department of MOARA to take the question. Thank you for your question. Since the outbreak of the epidemic, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs very timely improved the market surveillance and initiated a program of daily reporting of product price. In particular, we've been looking closely the market dynamics in Wuhan and Hubei province. The main items in the Veggie Basket campaign are of sufficient supply. Market has been stable. The prices have been fluctuating. Since the Spring Festival, pork average price saw a slight increase and then was stabilized at 50 yuan per kilo. Yesterday, at the wholesale market, the average pork price was 50.8 RMB per kilo, 7.6% higher than that prior to the Spring Festival, which was collected on the 23rd of January. There has been some slight fluctuations in fresh vegetables. We focused on 28 items. The average price is 5.83 yuan per kilo, 7.2% higher than that prior to the Spring Festival. There was no major change to the price of fruits. We monitored 6 major fruits. The average price was 5.65 for yesterday, similar to that prior to the Spring Festival. Eggs, poultry price have seen some decrease compared with that prior to the Spring Festival in Hubei province and Hubei, Wuhan city. The overall trend was slight decline in price. In Baishazhou market of Wuhan, for yesterday, the average vegetable price was 5.56 yuan per kilo, 1.8% lower than the previous trading day. Existing problems are as follows: impacted by the epidemic in certain localities, vegetables, eggs, poultry, and agricultural produce have shown some blocks to their distribution. That's why there have been fluctuations in their prices. Our ministry will organize the relevant stakeholders to improve the supply-demand balance so as to minimize the impact from the epidemic. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the 4th row. I'm from Phoenix TV. Media has said that in Shaoyang of Hunan and Shaochong there were 2 cases of pathogenic poultry involved virus. Well, will that lead to further strainess in the supply of poultry products? Yang Zhenhai, DG, will take the question. Thank you for your very much concern. It is a highly technical issue. The bird flu distributes widely in the world. According to WHO's reports, in the past 2 years, there were over 1,000 small-scale outbreaks. In 2001, we started with the H5 type of compulsory vaccination. In 2017, we promoted the H7 subtype highly pathogenic bird flu vaccination. In 2019, across the country, there were 4 outbreaks reported across the country. However, in the population, the infection and the deaths have seen drastic decline. It is fair to say that for bird flu, be it among birds or among humans, the incidence is very low. So no need to fret over bird flu. The well-quarantined and eligible poultry can be consumed. In Hunan and Sichuan province, on the 4th of February, there were 2 outbreaks of highly pathogenic bird flu, but those 2 were small poultry farms with a production of 14,000 plus, and the death among the birds were over 6,000. 28,000 plus poultry have been culled and screened by the local animal and livestock veterinary department. There were no abnormality in other poultry farms in the adjacent areas. And those working in the poultry farms are also clinically healthy. Their physical checkup have shown negative test results. So mostly this bird flu came from wild birds. So they do not come from the poultry. They came from the wild birds. So these 2 outbreaks have again sent an alert for us that animal-initiated outbreaks may come from anywhere. As to your question, whether this may lead to any impact on supply, poultry, meat, and eggs are produced with a big amount in China, per capita consumption of eggs and poultry has exceeded that of the developed countries, so the supply is sufficient. As the transportation restrictions are incrementally removed, it shouldn't be of a great concern. For the next steps,
we will continue to monitor very closely and make every effort to guard against the potential outbreaks of the highly pathogenic avian influenza and other potential animal epidemics. Let's continue. On the left, on the third row, the second journalist. Thank you. From CCTV financial channel, we know that the epidemic has affected the production of agricultural products, especially the vegetables. So how to satisfy the general public's needs for vegetables? DG Pan to answer your question. Actually, I've already touched upon this question. Let me share with you again and provide more information. Actually, after the outbreak of the epidemic in the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, we quickly set up a leadership team. And under this leadership team, we have a sub-team to ensure the supply of agricultural products and the delivery of such products. In some localities, there may be barriers for the transportation or delivery of the agricultural products, including vegetables. So, by working together with the relevant government authorities, we came up with 8 specific measures to address such potential obstacles. Second, we offered more guidance and services. Experts in the ministry are organized to work out a guideline for vegetable production throughout the country, and such guideline is location specific. Also, for some greenhouses, we provided more technical support. For provinces which have the production facilities for vegetables, they are the major suppliers of vegetables in winter, and they have already been allocated to provide vegetables specifically to the counterpart province in the epidemic. Also, at the State Council, there is a platform to ensure the match of supply and demand, and also the sound coordination. For the next step, we will continue to help the localities to produce vegetable and ensure the adequate and stable supply of vegetable in the Veggie Basket project. Let's continue. On the right, on the third row, the journalist in white. Thank you. From Central Radio and Television Station, we noticed that there's the poor access to market for some aquatic products like the common fish and shrimps. So what is the solution to that? Yes, this is an outstanding issue in some localities, affecting the income of the fishers. fishing farmers, and this is mainly caused by the limited access to the market and also the inadequate human resources for the transportation and delivery. For this issue, the Ministry of Agriculture is making efforts to implement the plans and specific measures for qualified businesses. They can enjoy subsidies to address the above-mentioned problems of shortage in human resources and the limited access to the market. In provinces like Guangdong, such initiatives have already been well implemented. Furthermore, the aquatic products are now listed among the daily necessities to be insured for transportation and supply. In the emergency response mechanism, we are building a sound and stable supply and demand mechanism, and also for the aquatic products like the fish, which find difficult access to the market. We are encouraging the farmers to ensure the freshness of such aquatic products and at the same time deliver the products to the market. Let's continue. From the Rural Village magazine, we can see that there are some good approaches and best practices. Could you please elaborate on these best practices in the ministry? Thank you for your question. In the villages, we have a very special team, and this team is utilizing information technology, providing services in production and livelihood. And this special team is called Farmer Benefiting Cooperatives. Starting from the year 2011, we had the project initiated. Now, about 70% of the villages in China are covered by this initiative. And in the epidemic control, this farmer beneficial cooperative team is making a lot of contribution. For instance, in one particular province, this cooperative has sent a lot of messages to the farmers' households. And in Henan province, this cooperative has raised funds and donations for epidemic control and also provided services to the farmers. In Chongqing, this cooperative has helped farmers to get access to the market. In Zhejiang, the cooperative has already sent more than 12 million messages and text messages to the farmers. In Heilongjiang province, with the mobile app, the cooperative has set up a dedicated column to make it more convenient for the farmers to order the agricultural means of production.
The Hebei province has set up a 24-hour hotline to coordinate the connection between the production with the distribution for fresh vegetables. For the next steps, our ministry will continue to leverage these information stations because they are closer to the farmers. That's making our contribution to the epidemic fighting. The last two questions. On the right side, journalist from the 5th row. Thank you. I'm from Hong Kong Economic Herald. After the outbreak of the epidemic, feed shortage is found in many localities. Some of the farms are even running out of the feeds, and they have to cull the chickens and ducks. What is the situation now? How can we ensure the stable supply of the feeds and the stabilization of the prices? Thank you for your concern in the feed industry. In our country, it is a pretty big sector with an annual production of 700 million RMB. When animals are running out of feed, it's just like mankind is running out of grain. After the outbreak of the epidemic, because of the transportation restrictions, there are feed shortages in livestock husbandry, and in certain farms, they are running out of the shortages. In response to the issue, we acted immediately to implement the central government's requirement, and we've refined such deployments. Our ministry has been collaborating with NDRC, Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Public Security, and adopted an array of targeted documents clarifying no blockades to the feed transportation vehicles. Altogether, there are 4 no blocking tools. In particular, we've corrected the wrong practices of setting up roadblocks. We've also set up hotlines to respond to the concerns expressed by the general public. Whenever we receive the phone call, we investigate into the issue. In light of the current falling up, the inter-provincial transportation blockades and the shortage of feeds have shown problem being solved. The last mile issue has been addressed as well. The feed manufacturing have accelerated. Major feed manufacturers have roughly resumed their normal business by 17th of February across the country. Among the 9,100 plus feed manufacturers, 66% have resumed their operation. However, the resumption rate compared with previous years are still lagging behind, because at this time in the past years, the resumption of feed manufacturer businesses have already reached 90%. But because of some transportation restrictions, the problems have become pronounced. But the overall volume is sufficient, mainly corns and soybeans. Once the travel restrictions are removed incrementally, I believe the supply will go back to the normal level. For the next steps, we will focus on the new problems that may crop up, facilitate the full recovery of business to ensure the sufficient supply to the husbandry industry, so as to provide sufficient milk and eggs. Last question, please. Thank you, Director General Mi. I'm from Chengdu Red Star News. We know that aquatic produce is also important. In particular, this is an important spring season for the aquatic industry. Will epidemic dent aquatic industry, what are the measures adopted by your ministry to ensure the supply of aquatic products? DG Jiang will take the question. Yes, indeed, it is a highly seasonal industry. Spring is the season for the ponds to get rested and to have some vaccination. In southern China, the planning is different compared with that of northern China. To ensure the stable running of the aquatic industry, Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs adopted active actions. First, the seedling preparation is important for the final good produce. So we've mobilized aquatic farms to nurture the seedlings, ensure the supply, and facilitate the information provision for production, distribution, and demand. We've also promoted the implementation of the joint prevention control measures to ensure that the supplies can be ensured for aquatic industry and to deal with the stranded aquatic products in ponds. In the first half of February, we've organized experts to draft the aquatic plantation guideline for the spring season. Information technology is advocated to be leveraged. We've been tailor-making measures according to local situations. For the next steps, we will continue to follow up with the efforts to ensure to minimize the impacts from the epidemic on the aquatic industry, to ensure the smooth running of aquatic plantation during the spring season, to ensure the annual produce. Thank you. I'd like to thank all the guest speakers for taking the question. Now, I'd like to invite Mr. Zhang Liubo from CDC to share with us some scientific knowledge of prevention and control. Thank you. Director General Mi, I'd like to answer some of the most frequently asked questions by netizens. First, a symptomatic patient goes to hospitals to take radiology examination. What are the precaution measures for these symptomatic ones? 6 points of suggestion. If you do not have a fever, try to avoid fever clinic. Second, before you visit hospital, make online appointment to minimize the waiting time in hospital. Third, if you are in hospital, wear surgical masks or more airtight masks. Fourth, refrain from touching any surfaces in hospital environment. Fifth, bring hand sanitizer with you. If you have to touch the surfaces of hospital items and you want to touch your eyes, mouth, or nose, or before leaving hospital, remember to use the hand sanitizer, which can come in handy help. Sixth, if possible, wear gloves. So these are the tips for the asymptomatic people who visit hospitals to take radiology examination. Next question is about the frequent use of disinfectants, as to whether it may impose negative impact on health or ambient environment. Disinfection is an important linchpin in prevention control to cut off indirect transmission. However, disinfection should be appropriate. Over-disinfection may bring about risks. Therefore, we must avoid negative impact on people's health or long-term risk over the ambient environment. So I have 4 tips for the use of disinfectants. Disinfection over items. We recommend physical disinfectant. 56 degrees of hot water, soak it in the hot water for 30 minutes will be enough to disinfect. So for our dishes, we can use this physical way of disinfection. 56 degrees of hot water and soak it in this water for 30 minutes. In the technical guidelines, we also say hot water 10 minutes of the boiled water.
Two reasons behind that. First, in some localities, the boiling water temperature may not be 100 degrees Celsius. And second, disinfection in the catering utilities is not just about the coronavirus, but also other potential pathogenic viruses. So 10 minutes with boiling water. This is the recommendation. Of course, there might still be a question about the length of the disinfection time. Say 10 minutes, is that long enough? Well, based on our previous knowledge, 3 minutes in 100 degrees Celsius is enough. The second tip is that if you use the chemical disinfectants, then it must be used in indoor environment. For outdoor environment, it is not necessary to sanitize the outdoor air. The third tip is that for the surfaces in the outdoor places, like the grassland or meadows, there's no need to have such disinfection. If a particular place has been infected, then we only need to have such a local disinfection. The large area of spraying disinfectants is not necessary. And the fourth tip is that if you use a large volume of disinfectants and spray them on human bodies, then they might be absorbed through the skin and may cause health risks. So we should try to avoid such practices. I want to re-emphasize hand hygiene. We can use hand sanitizers quite a few times every day. For healthcare professionals, dozens of times are also fine. Furthermore, for clothes which people wear outdoors, how to disinfect them? Two ways. First, for the overcoats, just hang them at the door and separate those overcoats with the clothes that you wear at home. It is not necessary to disinfect the overcoat every day. You just need to separate them. And also, the situation differs from the south to the north. I understand that in the south, sometimes people do not change their overcoats when they get back home. But in the epidemic period, it is suggested to change your clothes, especially the overcoat, when you get back home. Also, if you have been to some risky places like hospitals, then it is necessary to disinfect your overcoat. And the disinfection principle remains the same. If you can choose the physical disinfection or sanitation, that's better than the chemical approach. So the physical approach is preferred to the chemical approach. And you can use the boiling water to disinfect the overcoat. And if your washing machine does not have this function, you can try to find other alternatives. And if the fabrics cannot allow or tolerate the physical approach, you may also choose the chemical approach. Then you can choose the detergents or washing powders as appropriate, following the instructions. And this is important. Following the descriptions or instructions on the packages, on the packaging of the detergents or washing powders is very important. Furthermore, you have to consider the fabrics of the clothes. So for those chlorine-based disinfectants, they may have some dyeing effects on your clothes. And also you need to consider the potential cross reaction between the detergents or the washing powders or the disinfectants. So you have to do it on a case-by-case approach. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Zhang, for giving us very useful